My fellow West Africans, my name is A.P. Thomas. Today, I want to talk to you about something that nobody wants to hear about. Something that is so lethal that even the name of it frightens people, especially those West Africans, especially black people, because it is something that has never killed a white man. So I can confidently base my assessment. I can confidently base this video, direct this video to all black people because it is a sort of thing that has killed black people only, mercilessly. Today, I want to talk to you about Ebola virus, and specifically, I want to talk to you about the reemergence of Ebola epidemic in West Africa. We all saw memories of 2015 Ebola virus outbreak is so fresh that we all saw the devastation. We all cried during the devastation. We can never forget losing our loved ones during the devastation. The memories are so fresh in our minds that people, even today, are still suffering, are still enduring the pain of losing loved ones. The reason why I've decided to talk to you about the possibility that Ebola may re-emerge in West Africa, the Ebola pandemic, are listed in this video. So please join me. It's just a 10 minutes video. And I hope those people in authority, those government officials, Ministry of Health Sanitations, in all West African countries can at least listen to this, watch this video, and pick up one or two things from it. Let's first start with the background of Ebola. Let's just go to the background of Ebola. The Republic of Congo. In the Republic of Congo, they had three consecutive years during which Ebola reappeared. You have 2001, 2002, 2003, and 2003. So 3 consecutive years, Ebola re-emerged in the Republic of Congo and killed over 200 people. Now let's look at DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. The outbreak reoccurred several times since it was identified in 1976. It reoccurred in 95, and 7 years later, 2007, it reoccurred again. And 2 years after that, 2009, it re-emerged again. And 3 years after that, 2012, it re-emerged again. And again in 2014, and more recently this year, 2018, that has already killed over 17 people. So you can see the trends of reoccurrence in countries since 1974 to today. Over 90% of the countries that have been affected by Ebola have continued to be affected by this virus. The virus has reoccurred in all countries where it has affected previously. And I'm going to give you more examples. In South Sudan, the outbreak reoccurred twice. Once in 1976 when it started, and again in 1979. That was 3 years later, killing 173 people. Uganda, the outbreak reoccurred 4 times. 4 times. Initially in 2008, then in 2011, 2012, and 2013, killing 45 people. So you've seen the Republic of Congo, You've seen DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. You've seen South Sudan. You've seen Uganda. All of these countries, Ebola re-emerged 3-4 times since 1976. So let's look at Gabon. Gabon is one of those countries where Ebola struck as well. Ebola reoccurred, re-emerged 3 times in Gabon. In 1994, and then 1996 and 2002, killing 105 people. Even the Philippines, Ebola reoccurred in the Philippines in 1989 and 1990. So if we look back in the 2015 epidemic that occurred, the outbreak that killed nearly 12,000 West Africans, what does this tell us? This tells us, this information, these statistics from the WHO website, I got all of this from the WHO website, tells us one thing, that the possibility of Ebola re-emerging in West Africa is very high. So we may pray, we may hope for the best, we may hope that it never happened, which is normal. But really what counts the most is our actions towards our preparations. How prepared are we should Ebola re-emerge in West Africa? Are we better prepared today than we were in 2015? I think that's a very good question for us to consider. So I've taken the honors of putting together some of the feedback that we receive from WHO and other international partners who came to support us in West Africa during the Ebola epidemic in 2015. And one of the key items they mentioned was the lack of contact tracing. They said the virus spread throughout West Africa and so fast and killed people 6 times faster than all other outbreaks of Ebola in Africa, because we were unable to trace the contacts. What does this mean? People who've been in contact with our relatives and friends that are infected with Ebola virus, we were not able to trace them. That was the biggest risk that we had. And that's why the virus was spreading throughout West Africa as so fast and killing thousands of people. So hopefully this time around, we can all be alert. We can all stand up and make sure that the rate at which we trace our contacts are effective and efficient and works in the interest of communities so that we can prevent the spread of Ebola. But what does contact tracing, the lack of contact tracing, what does it indicate? According to WHO, it also indicates that the level of Ebola sensitization within the West African region, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea, was very limited. So Ebola sensitization was very limited. And why did they say that? They said that had the communities had very good sensitization about transmission, about symptoms, and of the disease, then it would have been handled better, and contact tracing would have been more efficient. But people didn't know that. And given the family-oriented lifestyles and communities we have in West Africa and Africa as a whole, people look after their loved ones in times of sickness. They look after their loved one in times of death. So people touched the dead, the corpses of their loved ones without knowing, without better understanding that they were endangering their lives and the lives of their community. So perhaps this time around, we can then go back to our governments, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinean governments, and urge them to be on a standby should Ebola re-emerge in West Africa, they should be better prepared than they were in 2015. There cannot be any more excuses in our response to Ebola because we've suffered through it. We've lost loved ones through it. So it's time for us to act. It is time for us to act proactively and efficiently. Just to recap, we all know what the symptoms are. We all know what the transmissions are. But let me just recap what the transmissions are and what the symptoms are of Ebola. In terms of transmissions, researchers globally believed that the most likely natural hosts are fruit bats. Fruit bats are the most likely natural hosts of Ebola virus. So we must educate our communities so that they can refrain from eating fruit bats. Because we all know that certain parts of our countries, in all three countries, there are traditional people who feed on fruit bats. So perhaps this is now the time that we should be educating our people about that, to refrain from eating fruit bats. Humans can be infected by other humans if they come in contact with body fluid from an infected person or contaminated objects from an infected person. So if you come in contact with body fluids of an infected person, you may be infected. And if you touch an object that an infected person has touched, you also may be exposing yourself to Ebola infections. So these are the transmissions. It is not airborne. Ebola is not airborne. So if you have it and somebody else, you have it with the Ebola patient, you're in the same room, you wouldn't necessarily have it. But if you touch an object that infected person has touched, then you might be exposing yourself to it. And obviously, sex is another option. Having unprotected sex with Ebola victim, Ebola virus, somebody that's been infected by Ebola virus may result into you being infected as well. So those are the transmissions. Let's go to the Ebola symptoms. The symptoms of this epidemic. It's really important that we know that the symptoms range from weakness, fever, aches, diarrhea, vomiting, and stomach pain. Additional experiences include rash, eye and chest pain, throat sores, difficulty breathing and swallowing, and bleeding both internally and externally. These are the common symptoms of Ebola. So ladies and gentlemen, I thought I should bring this to your attention, and I know how difficult it is for you to listen to this 10 minutes video. But I want you to look at the statistics. I want you to look at countries like DRC, Republic of Congo, South Sudan, Uganda, Gabon, Philippines. All these countries, Ebola has re-emerged at least 3 times. And DRC, it has emerged this 2018 is the reason really why I'm doing this video, because this 2018. Ebola has re-emerged here again for the 9th time. This is the 9th time that Ebola has actually re-emerged in Congo and has already killed 17 people. There is a vaccine, but it hasn't been tried yet. It hasn't been proven. It hasn't been accepted yet as a vaccine that can cure Ebola, that can prevent Ebola. So in the meantime, contact tracing, public sensitization, and handling and prevention of Ebola practices should be at the forefront of our health services. And when Ebola struck, when Ebola re-emerged, the first people to be affected are usually doctors. Because when you're sick, you go to the doctor. So the doctors are usually the first people within the community to become victims. The nurses the first victims of Ebola. And then from there, it just spreads widely. So I think the battle against the eradication of Ebola is not such a battle that we can put a timeline on it. It's not such a battle that we can say mission accomplished. Because since 1976 to date, Ebola has ravaged Africa in the worst possible way. So we must be aware of it. We must sensitize our community. And if you're visiting, you need to be aware. You're visiting there, you need to be aware that you're visiting an Ebola-prone country, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea. And you must take precautions. Washing, hygiene, washing your hands always, making sure you have shower twice a day, making sure you wash your hands before you eat. Anything you ingest, you make sure that they're clean. Thank you for watching, and I hope this message reaches out to as many people as possible. Thank you.